What is up, everybody? It is Bills-Lions week, which means we're going to take a look ahead on this Tuesday, and I'm going to Detroit. MLive.com, Lions beat reporter Ben Raven, one of my favorites in the country. Get to hang out with him in Indy every year and hopefully have some beers on Saturday night. What's up, Ben?
That's right, man. Yeah, the 4:30 Sunday start should open up a little free time on Saturday for us to reunite.
I can't wait, man. And you got two good teams to talk about. Funny little story. We recorded this about an hour ago, and it didn't work. So we're running it back. But here's the thing. I texted you. Normally I'd just be like, oh man, like whatever. I guess we'll just have to eat it. But it was so good. I wanted to make sure that Bills fans have all this content. So I really appreciate you running it back with me for this one.
No, absolutely. No question. You caught me at a perfect time, but I would have done it for you anyway.
Awesome. All right. A lot to get into on this game. Before we start, we're brought to you by Tops Friendly Markets. 'Tis the season to save on groceries and all of your holiday gifts with Christmas bonus, which is underway at Tops. Shop at Tops and save $10 at all your other favorite stores and restaurants. With over 25 gift cards to choose from, there's something for everyone on your list. And don't forget to treat yourself to some extra savings too. Be Santa's biggest little helper with Christmas bonus from Tops and get a complete list of available gift card savings at topsmarkets.com/Christmas bonus. All right, we got to start with this defense. Of course, 13 players on injured reserve, and it is just one man in, one man out, another man in. Go find him off the streets. It's bedlam in the Big D. I mean, what is going on with this defense?
It really is unbelievable what they've had to do over the last losing Aiden Hutchinson, who was playing ungodly football back in week 5. But not only that, like you said, 13 guys on IR, played without 3 defensive linemen, key defensive linemen last week. They lose Aleem McNeil in the first half. They still look great on the ground against the running game. But yeah, they've brought in guys off the street, off the practice squads. Jamal Adams hasn't played since September, signed to the practice squad, starts on defense against the Packers last week. You know, Jonah Williams on the D-line, Miles Adams on the D-line, playing a ton of snaps. Pat O'Connor started last week. He had never played more than 30 defensive snaps in a game. He was 40-plus, an honorary pregame captain for the defense. I mean, they are depleted without 4 of their top 5 linebackers from the start of the season. But yet, Aaron Glenn is kind of just reminding the world, like, you better hire me as your head coach this offseason, because what he is doing with this group is just unbelievable without so many key guys, without 3 team captains on that defense. And they are, I mean, not only have they not really broke, but like they are helping them win games. I mean, they forced that late field goal against the Packers last week in the red zone, get the ball back. Yeah, they gave up 20-plus points in the second half, but 2 of those were on the short field with your gambling head coach and the rare turnover from Jared Goff. But it's a makeshift defense, but it's one that is kind of being carried by that safety duo on the back end, and then also Jack Campbell in the middle, who is looking every bit of a first-round linebacker pick.
As you, Bills fans probably cry a tear. A lot of Bills fans really wanted Jack Campbell in that draft. But you look at this defense, and like you mentioned, there's so many different pieces. I mean, seeing Jamal Adams starting for a Super Bowl contender in 2024 is wild. But I mean, they don't have a lot of choices. There's a lot of injuries, but what they do so well, I think Brian Branch is another guy draft crushed by a lot of Bills fans. He ended up going to the second round of the Lions. They have a lot of different pieces to affect a team's run game. And the Bills are coming off of performance against the Rams where they weren't able to get that thing going at all. They had to completely abandon the run, which I think in hindsight, the score kind of forced their hand. But the score could do that this week. I mean, Detroit has gotten up by 2 scores before, and I think you have to find a way to rely and remain confident in your run game. I think the Packers did that, even though it was like grinding their gears. I mean, 99 yards rushing, and Josh Jacobs, I mean, the dude touched it like 20 times, and by the end of that game, he had to be sitting in that locker just being the most miserable person on the planet. It was so hard for him, and he was rewarded with 3 touchdowns. But the Bills got to find a way to run the ball. This defense doesn't allow teams to do that. The last 5 games, no team has gone over 100-yard rushing in a game against this Lions defense.
No, and that's really against running backs in a traditional running game. That has been the strength of this defense for really 2 years running. I mean, last year, that's how they kept it going. That's how they picked up steam down the stretch. And this year, I mean, that's what they lean on. I mean, they expect to be able to run the ball on offense, and they expect to be able to stuff your running game with your running backs, we'll get into the mobile quarterback talk here in a second, but like, yeah, against running backs and traditional running backs, like that's a strength of this defense. I mean, they dare you to run that ball against them with your running back because they feel very confident they're going to stop that. But yeah, Josh Jacobs 3 touchdowns last week, but like I said, 2 on the short field. I mean, nothing explosive. And that's really what this defense prides himself on, because even with the missing pieces on the defensive line, there's a lot of trust in Jack Campbell. There's a lot of trust in Brian Branch to be able to clean anything up that gets through that first level.
And the marching orders for me, if I'm Brady, McDermott, and Aaron Kromer, is this team is not going to take a week off from the physicality. And they bring the physical from the very first snap. I mean, they're looking to punch you in the mouth. They're looking for tackles for a loss. And I thought that part of the problem against the Rams was a departure from the physicality that they embraced against the 49ers the week prior in the snow. And maybe there was a little bit of an energy dump. I mean, when you capture your division in week 12, it makes sense that the next week, maybe you don't play as physical, don't get up for the game as much. But this Lions team, although they're on this crazy win streak, I do think they do a good job of getting up and playing every single week. Has that been your experience watching them?
Yeah, they really they don't play down to people anymore. That was kind of the crutch of the Lions teams of the past, and not even talking about Dan Campbell's Lions, but they would always find a way to play down to teams or like slump in the moment. Like, nah, there's no concerns about that. And I think that's how they've been able to win 11 straight games, man. I mean, seriously, they just, it's what we say all the time on our podcast is like, they do the annoying thing of turning cliches and coach speak to reality. Like they really do like believe it. And I mean, this is a team that's going to punch you in the face, no matter what the score is, no matter what's going on, no matter if they're clinched or not. I mean, it's a team that embodies the DNA of their head coach. I mean, there's no off weeks here. They're clinched in the playoffs, but hey, man, the Eagles and the Vikings are somehow right on their tails for that number 1 seed, and they really, really want to host playoff games at Rowdy Ford Field in the playoffs. And I mean, you're not going to do that if you take a week off or go away from what you are or who you are.
Exactly. Defensively, the last question on that front, you mentioned the running quarterback. To me, that's one area where the Bills can test teams. Like when things don't go well, we even saw it last week against the Rams. Break class in case of emergency, have Josh Allen just get out and run. And he does it a lot of times out of structure. The design runs, for whatever reason, under Joe Brady, haven't been what they were under Brian Dable years ago, and then to a lesser degree, Ken Dorsey. That's kind of faded a bit. It's more the off structure stuff when he gets out in space and then just takes off and goes for 30, 40 yards. That's an area that maybe you think the Bills can exploit.
Absolutely. I mean, the Lions are pretty solid against like designed quarterback runs too. Even when Anthony Richardson hit them with like for 40 yards on that opening drive a couple weeks ago, they figured it out. They clamped downs and they shut that down. But yeah, if you can get Josh Allen moving, I mean, this would be the key to success against this defense, even if they weren't missing umpteen guys. I mean, if you can get that defense on their heels, whether he's running, tucking his head and running like a buffalo, or whether he's pulling that thing back and throwing it at the line of scrimmage, that's how you beat this group, because that's kind of been their crutch in recent years is mobile quarterbacks. And I think with so many new pieces at linebacker, on the defensive line, if you can get those guys crisscrossed, if you can get those guys communicating, if you can get those guys thinking we have not prepared for this, that's how you're going to get this group. And I just think, yeah, getting those off script, those not designed runs by Josh Allen. Is he going to throw it? Is he going to run it? That's where this Bills offense should have success, and that should be kind of a key to them potentially winning this game here, because that's where they can really exploit this makeshift defense, and that's where this defense, even at full strength, has been beatable.
I've spent a lot of time the last couple of days talking about the Bills defensive line, which I thought as a unit, if you're power ranking the issues, they're at the top of the list coming off of that Rams game. And you look on the other side of the ball with Detroit, and they go out, to your point earlier, they lose Aiden Hutchinson, the scariest pass rushing force on the planet before he got hurt. And they just fit in Za'Darius Smith so seamlessly. He's got 4 sacks in 4 or 5 games with Detroit. Von Miller's got 4 and 9 for the Bills this entire season. How has he been able to so seamlessly fit in there? And is he somebody that teams are going to have to game plan for?
Yeah, I mean, he really has. He's instantly slid into what I thought Marcus Davenport's role was going to be for the Lions this year. and then some, just because he's playing more snaps. And he has just been that powerful bull rusher. He's been an on-field leader. He's been a locker room just source of energy. And I mean, yeah, three sacks in his first 4 games with the team. He gets the game-winning sack that forces the Bears into disarray there in the final 30 seconds on Thanksgiving. I mean, I think he had 9 pressures on Thanksgiving. I mean, he really has lifted this defensive line and then some. I mean, there's no replacing Aiden Hutchinson, but when you're playing along 3 practice squad guys or guys who have been only playing special teams and you're still getting after it like that, it's been a seamless fit. And he's really kind of like owned the like Rasheed Wallace, like just for the non-Pistons fans. In 2004, the Pistons traded for Rasheed Wallace and they won a title. That Za'Darius Smith shows up to his first game at Ford Field in a Sheed jersey. So like fully embracing, like, I'm that piece that's going to get that's going to get you where you need to be. And I mean, so far on the field, he's delivered. He's great against the run, which they love, and he is just an absolute force rushing the passer. And I mean, it was a home run edition 6 weeks ago when they still had a bunch of guys, and it's just an even more important addition for what this defense is going through right now. I mean, he has been, I hate to say it, but like just a picture perfect fit for this group and what they want to do and who they want to be.
Yeah, they're fun to watch on both sides of the ball. When the Lions have the football on offense, we could talk about a myriad of weapons here. It starts with Amon-Ra St. Brown, of course, that 2-headed monster in the backfield. Jameson Williams coming on. The guy that, to me, though, obviously it's easy to say this now because he has the 2 touchdown performance last Thursday. But Tim Patrick has filled in that Josh Reynolds role just about as well as you could have hoped coming over from the Broncos. And so funny, Reynolds just didn't work in Denver. They cut him, and he's now in Jacksonville, which, by the way, Jacksonville, it's like, funny side story. I saw Mike Florio Jr., excuse me, not Michael Florio Jr., Michael F. Florio from NFL Network. He tweeted, now it's the first week of the fantasy playoffs, so here's what you can do. First round of waiver priority to teams that are in the playoffs, and the second to teams that are in the consolation bracket. And I kind of think that should be the case in the real NFL, right? Like if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars and you're out, you should be able to claim a guy. Like Josh Reynolds doesn't want to go to Jacksonville. Like nobody wants to go to Jacksonville right now, although the opportunity might be there. But that aside, Patrick just filling that role really nicely.
No, it was a really important role to fill too, because coming out of camp, the Lions did not have a wide receiver 3. I mean, it was Khalif Raymond by default. They love Khalif. Khalif's been great to what they've done the last 3 years, but Khalif is like 5'9", 180 pounds and like not built for that life. But just the Josh Reynolds role, man. I mean, so much about this offense with Jared Goff is about timing, knowing where guys are going to be, and just the ability to like close his eyes and put a ball and know his guy's going to be there. And that's what Josh Reynolds was for him. That's what St. Brown is for him. That's what Laporta and the 2 running backs are for him too. But Patrick has stepped in, and he'd been showing really signs of life and filling that role the last probably 5 weeks or so, where his target share has gone up. He's made big plays. He felt like the touchdown was coming. Then he comes through with 2 last week. And I mean, he's like the perfect new flavor to this offense. It's a 6'4", 215, 220 type guy. It just extends your ability in the red zone with his catch radius and just running those Josh Reynolds posts, man, because like you look back at those 2 touchdowns last week, and if you close your eyes, you can picture Josh Reynolds in that route there too. So like they have really one of their big question marks coming into the season. They have absolutely filled and then some. I mean, Tim Patrick comes over initially on the practice squad. Allen Robinson's on the main roster too. So like they feel pretty good. Like even if something happens to Patrick, I know he's got a lot of injury history and struggles like that. Like they feel good about Allen Robinson too, but like, man, Tim Patrick, I mean, he's not just a third fiddle. Like he's a key part of this offense. And I mean, there's a lot of looks for everybody, because last week I think they set the NFL record for like 6 guys with 5 catches in one game. And I mean, that's when they're at their best, when they're not about feeding one guy. It's about spreading the love. It's about putting that defense on their heels. Where's it going? Where's it going? They got 4 options at all time when Jared Goff drops back to pass. And Patrick it's been arrow up, man. And it doesn't look like it's going to come back down, because he's just getting more comfortable.
Speaking of arrow up, I mean, Jared Goff, I think he's the one guy that, Josh Allen comes off that historic performance last week of the 6 touchdowns and, really, even in a loss, puts himself firmly at the top of the MVP race. But I think Jared Goff, like if they keep winning, if they finish 16-1 or 15-2, and Goff continues to have big games, like he's going to be right there in the mix in the conversation. And he's so impressive to me because like he can have a game like he had the 1 week with the 5 interceptions where you're just like scratching your head, what are you doing? But there's also special things about his game. He's so good in play action. I think for a non-mobile quarterback, he might be the best quarterback in the red zone at even when you know he's going to throw. Fine, he's got a good offensive line that helps, but being patient, going through his reads, making the right decision. He's a really good player. What have you seen from him this year, and what kind of run can he make at the MVP over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I've seen just an even more comfortable quarterback in his offense. I mean, he's in a rare situation right now where he's in his 4th year with his offensive coordinator. He's in his 4th year with the same head coach. I mean, it's a lot of the same pieces that he started this rebuild in Detroit with, and you just see a level of comfort and a level of confidence that wasn't there in 21, and it's been there the last 2 years, but it's really just hit new levels this year because he has been, like you said, take out the 5 interception game. This guy has been precise. He's been lethal, and he's been great against pressure, which was always a knock against his game. But like you said, behind that offensive line, I mean, I that is the foundation of this team. That gives Goff the confidence, that gives him the time to sit in that red zone and take shots in the pocket. But yeah, the MVP stuff is interesting. Like I think he'd have a lot better case if you take away that weird fluky 5 interception game in Houston. But like, man, if they keep winning and he keeps, because it's not like he's just being a QB win merchant either. Like he's playing some pretty great football. I mean, throwing the ball 41 times last week against a good Packers defense when the Lions are unable to run the ball. I mean, you talk about all the missing holes on defense. Dan Campbell sounded more impressed about the fact that they were able to win that game without being able to run the ball like they usually would. And I just think he's just a perfect fit in this offense. And I think if you see him continue to have those like 80% completion games where he's still somehow throwing 28, 29, 30 passes and cuts down on the interceptions, man, I mean, there ain't no reason he can't be in the top 3 MVP discussion because, I mean, you take him away from the NFL's best team and they're not the NFL's best team or anywhere near close to it anymore because, I mean, he really is like a perfect fit for this offense, a perfect fit for those weapons. And, I mean, he just continues to prove the Lions front office right for not only believing in him and giving him a chance, but building this entire ship around his strengths and his weaknesses.
Speaking of the strengths, you mentioned that offensive line. Last week, I mentioned, the Packers struggling to run the ball. It felt like the Lions struggled to run the ball a little bit too. I mean, 3.7, I think, somewhere around there for David Montgomery and a little bit less for Jahmyr Gibbs. And I watched a lot of Lions this season. They seem to effectively run the ball every single game. And they're probably licking their chops at this matchup with the Bills this week, who have struggled to keep teams from running the football. I think they're ranked 31st in the league in run defense. And part of that is by design. They want teams to run the ball so they don't get hit with explosive plays. But what went into the struggles to run the ball last week? And do you see any signs that could be something that continues for them?
No, I don't. I think the Packers knew what the Lions were going to try to do early in that game, run the ball as much as possible, keep that banged up defense off the field for as long as possible. And, the Lions have been without their starting left tackle for 2 straight weeks. And I know so much of this offense runs behind 57 and Frank Ragnow, Sewell and Ragnow there on the line. But, I mean, the Packers got a lot of weapons on that front and they won a lot of their one-on-one battles last week. But no, this is, speaking of that banged up defense, I mean, they really do. They want to keep that group off the field for as much as possible. And this is where the Lions should be feeling good going into this matchup because that offensive line is their life force. That 1-2 punch, Sonic and Knuckles out of the backfield. I mean, there's not too many games where those guys aren't both averaging 4.5 yards per carry. And the thing that just makes me feel great about this offense is even when Montgomery and Gibbs have tough games on the ground, I think both had 30 plus receiving yards last week. And just they find a way to run the offense through those guys no matter what. But I do expect things to go back to normal. I think you're going to get a heavy dose of David Montgomery in the first half, and there's going to be a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs. His touches have kind of been down out of the backfield the last 2 weeks. I do not think that will be the case this week because I kind of expect Taylor Decker to be back. That's kind of what the tea leaves are showing this week after getting 2 weeks back. And when that full starting 5 is together and healthy, there's just not a better union. There's not a more forceful, impactful unit in the NFL because like I said, everything runs behind Sewell and Ragnow's playing like the best center in the game. So when you got those 2 guys on the inside and Zeitler playing out of his mind again, somehow still 13 years into his career. I mean, there's a lot of faith, and their running game is one of those things where, like, even if they hit a brick wall a couple of times, they're going to try and run through that brick wall. So I think you're going to see that this week, and there's going to be a real commitment to running the ball.
We're going to get a chance. I know that the Lions are so banged up on defense, but a lot of that is set, and they're going to have to go kind of forward with a lot of it, especially Hutchinson. So they're pretty whole, and you say getting healthy on the offensive side. The Bills are going to be about as whole as they've been. The only guy that's kind of out there we don't know is Rasul Douglas, who suffered a knee injury. His status won't be really clear till tomorrow, but or Friday, I should say. Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid could be back for this game, which then would create an entire offensive availability for Joe Brady for the first time in a long time. And I think like that to me will be a true test, kind of like last week was a true test for, the Bills against a really, really elite offense. This will be the Bills at their best. And I'm actually looking forward to what that's going to look like against a Lions team that has found a way to take away the run game. The Bills want to run the ball. So it's going to be kind of like an ideology clash.
No, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, this really is an exciting matchup between two lovable Super Bowl contending teams. And just, I'm fascinated to see because like the Lions have not faced a Josh Allen this year. I mean, they really have not faced a guy like that. And you talking about the Bills being back at full health, that excites me because I want to see some of those over the top. The Lions got two of the best safeties in the game playing hot right now. I loved Keon Coleman coming out. That's a perfect fit over there. I like to hear that he's getting healthy again. But yeah, I'm really, it's two teams that want to run the ball. It's two explosive offenses that can put up 30 on anybody. But for some reason, it just kind of feels like it's going to be like kind of a slugfest to me. That's what my gut is telling me. Like it's two teams that are going to run into that brick wall until they break through it. I feel like. I can't wait, man. It really is this is a lot of people throw that around, but this is a legit potential Super Bowl preview, man. And you don't get a lot of those this late in the season.
Love it. And you don't get a lot of great interviews, especially somebody willing to do it 2 times in a row. We appreciate you on this one. Let everybody know where they can find you all week long and beyond in the lead up to this game.
Absolutely. All the work publishes at mlive.com/Lions. We've got our Dungeon of Doom podcast and insider texting program. I know you guys listen to this podcast are familiar with that. We got that going on with the Lions. You can find me on Twitter at Benjamin S. Raven, and I'm on the Blueski at Ben-Raven and whatever it ends with. You can find me on there too. But yeah, the mlive.com/Lions is where I live this time of year.
Love it. Great stuff. If you want to join the shout, text line 716-528-6727, $3.99 a month. It is a 2-week free trial before that. And the shout text line is brought to you by Carrie C. Byer, attorney with the law offices of Francis M. Litro, located at 237 Main Street in Buffalo, New York. If you or someone you know is seriously injured, give them a call, 716-852-1234, or check out litrolaw.com. All right, Ben Raven, I'm Matt Parrino. We'll see you tomorrow on the Staples Show. Thanks, my brother. I appreciate you.